I'd like to call this Board of Directors meeting for the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency to order on November 12th, 2025. May we have roll call?
Jeff Stevens. Carm Baines.
Present.
Bruce Johnson.
Here.
Bill Conley.
Here.
Mark Boomgarden.
Here.
Michael Pasquale.
Here.
Gary Marler.
Here.
Drew Stresser. Jeremy Chapdelaine.
Here.
Mike Morris.
Here.
Chris Schmidl.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Marler?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item is public comment. Members of the public will be allowed to address the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency's Board of Directors on items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Any member of the audience who may wish to bring a matter before the board that has not been placed on the agenda may do so at this time. However, state law provides that no action may be taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Do we have any public comment? All right, seeing none. Consent calendar groups together those items which are considered non-controversial, for which prior policy direction has been given to staff and that require only routine action by the board. The chair will advise the audience that matters may be adopted in total by one motion. However, the board may, at its option or upon request of a member of the public, consider any matter separately. Anybody from the board want to remove an item? Any member of the public want to remove an item? Seeing none, entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Baines, Director Baines, and a second by Director Conley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no, the consent calendar is approved unanimously. Informational and possible approval items. First items number 4, approval of the sale and issuance of an assessment revenue refunding bonds in a not to exceed principal amount of $71.5 million to refinance certain outstanding bonds. I think we'll start with Mr. Bissett with this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So this is a follow-up item from our meeting last month where we received board direction to go out and refund or refinance existing debt, but not take out new money. And that is the procedure that we're providing today. Mr. Dan Cox with KNN, our municipal advisor, he's going to do the presentation for this item. Dan has been around with our agency since our 2013 and 2015 bond issuance and helped guide that process. Dan was also instrumental with helping us with our federal credit transfer over to SJAFCA, helping us value the credit and providing that transaction with SJAFCA. So with that said, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you to make the presentation.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, members of the board. So we're going to summarize a refunding transaction to refinance a portion of the agency's outstanding assessment revenue bonds. Just a quick overview. We'll provide the staff recommendation for the action today. A brief overview of the refinancing plan and the bonds themselves. Go over briefly the primary bond documents that are involved that would be approved as to form if approved today, and then the next steps for finishing up the transaction and realizing interest savings. So the staff recommendation is to give approval to an authorizing resolution to authorize the refunding, and that would involve authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $71.5 million in principal to refinance all or a portion of the outstanding assessment revenue bonds. The sale of the bonds would be on a negotiated basis with the underwriting firm Stifel Nicholas, same firm that underwrote the original transactions back in 2013 and 2015. The action would authorize that sale pursuant to a bond purchase agreement, provided that the minimum net present value savings is at least 3% of the principal amount of bonds, and that the underwriter's discount does not exceed 0.5% of the principal amount of the refunding bonds. Also would be the approval of the form of a preliminary official statement, which discloses the risks, discloses the bondholder security to prospective investors and the risks inherent in owning the bonds. And then generally authorizes other actions need to be taken for staff to complete the refunding transaction subject to meeting the minimum savings requirements. The overview of the refinancing, we're planning to refund $22.5 million roughly of the $35 million that's outstanding for the 2013 bonds, and about $24 million of the $36 million outstanding for the 2015 bonds. The outstanding bonds that mature in 2043 to 2045 are not economical to refund at this point, so we would leave those outstanding. And the bonds that we do plan on refinancing, those have a final maturity. So we're not planning to extend the maturity. Therefore, the final principal maturity of the refunding bonds would be in 2040. Estimated savings, we currently estimate conservatively net present value savings of about $2.1 million, and that's net of all costs of issuing the refunding bonds. As I said, the minimum to proceed would be 3% savings. The annual savings over 15 years is expected to be on average about $180,000 a year. And these estimates include some market cushion. We're at least a few weeks away from actually selling the bonds, and so market conditions can change, and we've built into these estimates some cushion for an adverse change in market conditions. So we hope at the end of the day it'll, savings will be better than that. The bond terms, as I mentioned, we're planning on 15-year fixed rate bonds. If in the unlikely event market conditions, drop dramatically and we're able to economically refund all of the bonds, which I think is highly unlikely, but if that were the case, the bond term would go to 20 years, matching the remaining bonds we would refinance. Principal will be paid annually starting in 2026, same structure that you have currently. The interest rates, prices, and redemption provisions would be determined at the time of the bond sale. Again, that would be a couple of weeks away. And there would be another optional call provision where you could redeem the bonds in early. That would be determined at the time of sale, but would be no later than 10 years from the financing. And that's similar call provisions that we had in the 2013 bonds and part of the 2015 bonds. Key security provisions of the bonds. The bonds are secured and paid from the annual gross assessments after a deduction for a small county charge, but before payment of Sabufka's administrative costs. There's a covenant to levy the assessment at the maximum amount allowed by law at certain minimum amounts. And there's a provision that would allow additional bonds if you needed to borrow additional funds for project purposes. That would be a very limited amount, but it's authorized by the documents should that ever be needed. And essentially, these are the same provisions in the outstanding bonds. There's no new requirements on the part of Sabufka. It's largely the same terms that are on the existing bonds. Use of the proceeds. Most of the proceeds will go to paying off the bonds that are being refinanced, including the interest to the redemption date. The bonds will be called 20 to 30 days after the bond closing. There would normally be a deposit to a reserve fund equal to half of maximum annual debt service that would normally be funded from proceeds. We expect to purchase a surety from a bond insurer that's like extra insurance that eliminates the need to make a deposit to a reserve fund and is much better economics for the refinancing. And then finally, the issuance and underwriting costs would be funded from proceeds. So hence the reduction in debt service after the refunding bonds are issued are net of all the costs of issuing the refunding bonds. And finally, we estimate, based on what we plan to refinance, the estimated size of the refunding bonds is about $43 million. And that number will be finalized on the date of the bond sale in a couple of weeks. Primary documents, again, these are approved as to form as part of what's being considered tonight. The indenture of trust is the basic document that outlines all the terms of the bonds, will ultimately include the final interest rates and principal maturities. It's largely the same as the existing indenture. There will be an escrow agreement which governs the escrow agent holding the proceeds for the short period from the closing to when the old bonds are called in. Preliminary official statement is the key document. That's the disclosure document provided to investors ahead of the sale, and it's designed to disclose all material facts about the bonds, the bondholders' risk, bondholders' security. And that will also be finalized. It's approved as to form, will be finalized shortly after the meeting and following a due diligence meeting with the finance team. And that will ultimately be circulated to investors in preliminary form ahead of the bond sale. And there'll be a bond purchase contract that would be between Sabufka and Stiefel, and that will get executed on the day of the bond sale. And once that's executed, the interest rates and final principal amount of the refunding bonds and the savings are known and locked in. And finally, there's a continuing disclosure agreement, which is an obligation of Sabufka to provide annual disclosure updates every year. And it's currently required to do that on the existing bonds. So next step, following consideration of the sale today, we are in the process of obtaining a credit rating from Standard & Poor's. We've got a presentation with the Standard & Poor's representative this Friday. We expect to receive that rating within a week of that meeting. We're also having the issue looked at by a couple of the bond insurers to where they will bid premiums. We will go with the lowest premium, but the benefit of bond insurers is that it, because they have the insurer has a higher rating than what's likely to be obtained based on the assessment credit by itself, we would use bond insurance to the extent it helps reduce the interest cost and helps achieve additional savings. Following that, we would post the official statement. That could happen as early as the end of next week, but could happen the following week. We aim to get that out before Thanksgiving. There'd be a period of time where Stiefel, the underwriter, is pre-marketing the bonds to prospective investors. And we're aiming to price the bonds and sign the purchase contract the first half of December, either the week of December 1 or the week of December 8th, and that's subject to market conditions. We'll hone in on a specific day once we get closer to posting the POS. But so by mid-December, subject to market conditions, we should have the interest rates locked in and the savings finalized. And then finally, closing would be probably 2 weeks after the pricing sale date, so that would likely occur right before the Christmas holiday. nutshell, any question?
Any questions from the board? I guess so.
Protocol.
So there would be separate rates for each maturity from 26 to 40. And each maturity would have both a rate and a yield and price. So based on the estimates of the savings that I gave you, the estimated all-in true interest cost, which takes into account the estimated rates and includes the underwriter discount, is about 3.45%. And that's with some additional cushion for the go the other.
Would that be net to the bondholder, or would that be before the county took their fees out?
Well, the interest rates, the county takes its charge out of the revenues before it goes to Sabufka. So that doesn't really impact the rate. Yeah, it just slightly impacts the amount that's available to pay debt service.
Any questions, other questions? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, turn it back to you, Mr. Bissett, for any follow-up or anything else?
No, I think Dan covered everything in detail, and I think it's back to the board to decide whether we move forward or not.
All right, bringing it back to the board.
I'll make a motion that we approve the question.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion from Director Stevens, a second from Director Chapdelaine. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item 4 passes. Thank you for the presentation and the work leading up to that. Appreciate that. All right, item number 5, receive and file monthly financial reports.
Good afternoon. So this report covers monthly financials through the end of September of 2025, and also reporting on the end of the accrual period for end of the accrual period for 24-25. September financials are through for 25-26. So our ending working capital at the end of September was $17,266,000, $19.7 million in pending estimated to date, including pending financials. Revenue for 24-25 on the operating fund was about $1 million, but that's, remember, we budget to $750,000 for our operating fund. That additional $270,000 is due to the interest that we had reported on last month that finally posted in September during that accrual period. And we haven't received anything to date yet for 25-26. Capital revenue for 24-25, about $9.7 million, about $13 million pending to date. For the current fiscal year, we have a negative balance of about $5,000. That's probably just due to accruals and nothing, it'll change over time and increase, but about $1.4 million pending to date through September. That difference of about $4.8 million could be reflected here. It's about $4.7 million in capital payments that we have pending there. And then that $66,000 is just late arrival of assessment revenues. For expenditures, 24-25 paid expenditures to date were about $8.3 million. And then for 25-26, about $2.7 million through, and it says August there, but it should be September. Apologies there. But a majority of that for the current fiscal year, a majority of those expenditures relate to the TUFER project. We have debt service paid through end of October. The next debt service payment is due in April Although due to refinancing efforts currently underway, the amounts that we have listed here are subject to change. We'll report that next month too, if we have that locked down, a new debt service payment schedule. So just activities through the rest of November. We have closed out RFMP4 and RFMP5 is underway. We'll continue to process other grant reimbursements. CNRA, we're still, with our sediment removal grant, we had submitted a final SOC, a statement of cost, but we hadn't received or haven't submitted quite yet a request for retention release on that. Our audit is underway, and LWA has been currently working with the auditor on that. We're still on track for that pretty well. And then the assessment roll from Wildan had gone out just a few weeks ago. And then obviously the bond refinancing. So I just open up for questions now.
Any questions? Seeing none, anything from the public? Seeing none. Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you.
Item 6, presentation and file program / project updates. Mr. Bissett.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we are in November. We're getting close to the end of the year here, which I find hard to believe. But so let's provide a little bit of update here. So on our Tudor flood risk reduction project, I don't know if anybody's driven down there over the Highway 99 bridge over the Feather River lately, but the levee has been fully reconstructed. And our contractor, Nordic, is in the process of finalizing the all-weather surface on top of the levee crown. That'll be completed today. And then they'll be doing a little bit of work in the next week or so to button up the site, do any last-minute winterization type work to finalize the project for this year. So we're happy about that. Nordic's been taking advantage of weekends, Saturdays, Sundays as necessary to get us to this point so that we don't go too far into flood season, which starts on November 1, or which started on November 1. We're also working closely with the Central Valley Board on that Odysseus pipe issue. The attorneys on both sides are negotiating, and that's really all I know as far as right now. So I'm looking forward to receiving an update from the Central Valley Board staff very soon on that and see where that's going to take us. So I'll keep the board apprised. And then our contractor will be coming back next year in the spring, starting probably after April 15th, to do the pipe installations for next year. So that's all that's going to happen next year. Basically, the good 80% of the project is now completed. Next slide, please. On our Sutter Bypass East levee repair project, we're at a 90% design. We've received reviews from our partner agencies, the Department of Water Resources, and our independent panel of experts. We're still waiting on comments from the Army Corps. We're hoping to receive those fairly soon. The federal government shutdown hasn't helped with that situation. But hopefully things start back up very soon. On our FEMA hazard mitigation grant application, we're still awaiting to hear from Cal OES as far as giving us the green light to proceed to a full application and submittal to FEMA next year. We're hoping to hear back from Cal OES either this month or next, but we'll see when we hear. Let's see. We're also still coordinating with Calpine on trying to advance the design of the full levee repairs, working with Department of Water Resources, trying to convince DWR to move forward on funding those designs and permits for the remainder of the levee repair. But we haven't gotten there quite yet, but we're still in negotiations and discussions with DWR. On our City of Orrville levee repair coordination efforts, as of just this morning, the Army Corps delivered their final levee inspection report. And Chris and I have a meeting with the city manager tomorrow to discuss not only that report, but some of the recommendations within the report as far as advancing the creation of a operations and maintenance manual for that levee and a flood safety plan. That was a couple of the do-outs from the Army Corps' recommendations. And we're coordinating with DWR to see if there's some funding to make both of those items happen or move forward. We're also continue to coordinate closely with Senator Dolly and Assemblyman Gallagher, looking for opportunities to go after state funding to advance this levee repair project. On the last item on this slide is our federal project. So the work is all completed, but we're still working with the Army Corps to finalize the IDRs, the Integral Determination Report. So they evaluate all the levee repair work that we completed and determine what was integral to the federal project. So basically they say, whatever work we did, if that's same or similar to what they would do, they would credit that, and they're reviewing our credit packages right now. So all of that work is ongoing. And also the LURDs, which is the lands, easements, right-of-way, relocation, and disposals. Essentially, that's the real estate acquisition and utility relocation work that we performed, that they're looking at the costs and evaluating them to determine what's creditable. Next slide, please. On Orville Wildlife Area, Robinson's Riffle project, our team is advancing the designs and permits for that project. I'm going to have Chris cover the next slide and go over that project in not detail, but summarize it for the board. Just to remind you, we last presented on this project maybe almost a year ago, so it's been a while. But the good news is we're working closely with the Wildlife Conservation Board on a grant, which I have listed as 32 million. That board is going to consider granting us that money for the project next week. And Chris and I will be at that board meeting. And it's a very positive thing for this agency and for this project to be able to advance that work. And I'll have Chris talk to you in detail about what the project elements are. In the same general area, we have the Thermalito Afterbay Boat Ramp and Campground project. And the good news on that project is we are out to bid right now. We held a pre-bid meeting last week, and we had very good positive attendance by contractors interested in this project. And right now we have 11 plan holders, so 11 different contractors holding the plans. Our bid open is scheduled for December 9th, so not too long away. This Friday is the cutoff for questions from contractors. We'll provide a bid addendum where we answer questions and then open bids on the 9th. So we're excited about that. And I believe that's one day before our next board meeting. So I'll be able to inform the board of how many bids we received and who our low bidder is. And we'll look to take a contract award to the board in March of next year. So there's a little bit of a delay there, but we needed to get the bids open so that we had the costs for the project so we could coordinate with the Wildlife Conservation Board on that. And then the last two bullets on this slide, there's two different projects on side channel projects along the Feather River. The first one, Sutter County Resource Conservation District. We have a meeting with them this Friday to look at project alternatives and hear from their team on where they're at in that process. The next project is just downstream from this first one, and that's being advanced by River Partners under a Bureau of Reclamation grant. And we just got an update from their consultant earlier this week. They're advancing towards putting out a preferred alternative, and we haven't seen that yet, but we're hoping to see some detailed information from that project very soon. And also, I'm going to try to have that consultant come in to the board and provide an update or a presentation on that project next month. So we're looking to time it for next month. Next slide, please. So this is where Chris is going to cover the Orville Robinson's Riffle project for you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and hello, members of the board. Good afternoon. As Michael mentioned, we are excited to have the opportunity to go before the Wildlife Conservation Board next week, which could provide a significant amount of funding for construction of this project. And because of that opportunity, we thought it'd be a good time, as Michael mentioned, to just kind of provide the board with a refresher of what we'll be advancing with the work associated with that project. This project, similar to the boat ramp and campground project, this was one of the primary projects that came out of the planning effort that we did in conjunction with the state for the wildlife area. And it essentially consists of about a mile of restoration along the Feather River. So similar to a lot of other work that you're seeing in the Central Valley right now, the focus is on to provide some additional benefits to salmon in the form of new spawning and rearing habitat. And as you know, this section of the Feather River, beginning right there at Robinson Riffle and extending upstream to just south of the city of Oroville, this section's heavily disturbed. It was heavily dredged during the hydraulic mining era. It was utilized as a borrow source for the construction of Oroville Dam. And so we'll essentially be going into that west overbank area, excavating the cobble piles and the overbank areas and putting about roughly 200,000 cubic yards of gravel back into the river. Basically, that river reach right now is too big, too deep, and too wide for the volume of flow that it sees. And so with the creation of some additional riffle complexes and putting some material back into the river channel, we're looking to enhance and restore the main channel. With the excavation, we're also looking to create new side channels. Now, these won't be permanent side channels. They'll be seasonally inundated. So as water in the main channel, as the flow increases and stages rise, those channels will inundate and water will now have the ability to kind of spread out amongst the overbank there. And this also has some pretty significant flood risk reduction benefits too. So in times of high flow, like your 100, 200-year events, the project will provide over half a foot of stage reduction in this section of the river, which does have some direct benefits to that southern part of the city of Oroville. That's really the project in a nutshell. This is just my only slide to kind of provide the board with that quick refresher. So Michael, maybe with that, I'll turn it back over to you and just hang out here in case there's any future questions.
Sounds good. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, this is, I was just looking, I think I should retitle this more like weather monitoring or weather discussion because there's no concerns right now. But we will have this as a standing item throughout flood season. We do have a big rain coming in for tomorrow. Like I said earlier, our contractor is buttoning up our Tudor flood risk reduction project site, getting ready for that. And we'll continue to monitor weather as we move forward into flood season. I did attend the DWR flood season prep. Actually, Chris and I did the flood season prep meeting on October 28th. And drum roll, please. They estimated 50% is going to be dry or wet. So that's kind of what we hear every year. So you know, you don't get a lot of insight into the weather at those meetings, but it is informative. It was very well attended. The Veterans Hall was pretty much full, so that was good to see. And so, like I said, we'll continue to monitor weather and have discussions as we move forward. Next slide, please. This is my last slide, and then I'll stop and we'll turn it over and see if there's any questions from the board. We were supposed to have a Army Corps levee inspection earlier this month. It was canceled due to the federal, government shutdown. I'm not sure if, I think they're going to reschedule it, so we'll stay tuned for that. But we were looking forward to, meeting with, these are some folks, not just from the Sacramento district. I think they were national people coming in to perform this inspection. So once it gets rescheduled, I'll be able to let the board know about that. And then our next board meeting is next month on December 10th, and that is one day after our bid open for the recreational campground and boat ramp project. So we'll be able to let the board know how that turned out. And just as a reminder, we won't have a meeting in January. We typically cancel that first of the month meeting. So, but I'll remind the board next month. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it back to you and see if there's questions from the board.
All right, thanks, Mr. Bissett. First, any questions for Chris on the Robinson Riffle project? Seeing none, let me be one that says thanks to both of you and the staff on the potential grant award. That's a lot of money and for a good project. So any other questions for Mr. Bissett? Charlie, go ahead.
Sorry to ask a question without being recognized earlier. I had my back to you and my mind was
Don't worry about it. I'm good.
Michael, I missed the last board meeting for good excuses, but you may have handled it then. But at one point after our meeting with DWR and the levee tour, you were going to schedule a meeting with the same crew and David Guy from Northern California Water to try and put this development setback levee crap to rest. Did that ever happen, or is it scheduled?
Good question, Charlie. So we did meet with David Guy at Montana Farms, and we talked about all the work that they're doing, looking at in the Sutter bypass, so that we could account for that within our own levee improvements desires. And it was a very positive meeting, so that we had a much better understanding of all the work that they're proposing. And David, his action item was to reach out to Carla Nemeth to set up a meeting with her and her staff so that we could educate them on everything that's being planned in this region. So we're still waiting for that to happen. But yeah, no, we did have a very positive meeting with David, and we're going to keep advancing that work. Yep.
Jeff?
Chair. Mike, is there anything that we can do, when I say we, not as a board, but we as individuals or businesses, that can spur on or give support to when you go and hit DWR up about the bypass project, and to put more pressure on them to take a closer look at the whole project and maybe put some energy into it?
Yeah, no, we always think about that, like political leverage and things like that. So I'll definitely keep that in mind. I have our state lobbyist who helps us, on the political side, and we'll look at doing what member agencies, how they could help us advance that work.
And it would be nice to maybe provide the individuals that would most likely be involved in it so we could get word to them.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, then we will stand adjourned. Oh, happy Thanksgiving to everyone and safe travels during those times if you're traveling. And this meeting is adjourned.